All right, Celtics Nation, it's game night once again, and you can feel that buzz in the air. The Boston Celtics are gearing up to take on the New York Knicks, and honestly, it feels like one of those matchups that's going to set the tone early in the season. Friday night hoops, bright lights, and that classic East Coast rivalry. There's something special about seeing green and orange clash under the spotlight. And tonight, we'll get another chapter of that story. And hey, it's streaming on Prime now, which still feels weird. Like watching your favorite team play in the same place you order paper towels, but here we are. Basketball in the age of convenience. Now, before we talk about what we're expecting from this game, let's rewind a bit. The Celtics' last outing was tough, no sugarcoating it. They went down by just 1 point to Philadelphia, a 117-116 heartbreaker that left everyone wondering what could have been. But there were silver linings, and the biggest one was Nimikata. He looked sharp, confident, and way more comfortable than he did in the preseason. 17 points and 8 rebounds in 25 minutes is no small feat, especially for a guy still trying to carve out his spot in the rotation. He didn't force anything, took smart shots, and finished 7 out of 8 from the field. That's the kind of efficiency you want to see from a big man. Sure, he's still got work to do defensively. His rotations could be cleaner, and there were a few late closeouts, but overall, he gave Boston a real presence inside. Tonight, the question is whether he can build on that performance and keep the momentum rolling. But if you're a Celtics fan, you know the biggest question mark right now isn't about offense. It's about defense, particularly on the perimeter. Last game, Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe combined for 74 points. 74. That's not a typo. They tore through Boston's defense like it wasn't even there. And now comes Jalen Brunson, who's a completely different type of player, but every bit as dangerous. He's not lightning quick like Maxey, but he's methodical, patient, always getting to his spots in the mid-range. That's his bread and butter, and he's one of the most precise guards in the league when it comes to reading defenses. The real test tonight is whether the Celtics can adjust to that slower, more controlled style of attack. This isn't about stopping a speed demon. It's about containing a surgeon. That brings us to Derek White. We've been talking about how he got snubbed for all defensive honors last year, and how he led all guards in blocked shots. But now, it's time for him to step up again. The team's defensive identity feels different this season, especially with all the roster changes. You lose a few elite defenders, and suddenly guys like Peyton Pritchard are being asked to guard tougher matchups. That puts even more pressure on White, who's also being asked to do more offensively. And that's where things get tricky. When a player has to carry more of the offensive load, taking 15 to 17 shots a night, handling the ball, creating plays, it naturally takes away some of the energy you need to be a lead on defense. We've seen it before. Luka Doncic, LeBron James, all those high-usage stars who sometimes have to take defensive possessions off just to survive the fourth quarter. White's not that kind of superstar, but the workload can still wear on you. So, if his defense hasn't looked quite as sharp early on, that could be part of the reason. But tonight, he'll need to find that balance again, because Brunson is the kind of guard who will punish even the smallest lapse. Another thing to keep an eye on is the bench. Last game, Boston's reserves looked fine, but not nearly active enough. Xavier Tillman gave solid minutes, 16 of them to be exact, scoring 4 points and grabbing 7 boards. He's athletic, brings energy, but there were a couple of sloppy moments that hurt possessions. Chris Boucher was another question mark. There was some speculation that he might even crack the starting lineup, but he only logged 16 minutes off the bench. He's the kind of player who can stretch the floor and change the tempo, yet we didn't see much of that. Josh Mine, it also chipped in with 14 minutes, but overall the bench just didn't bring enough scoring punch. Between Boucher, Minot, and Tillman, they combined for only 12 points. That's not going to cut it, especially when the starting unit isn't knocking down threes. And speaking of threes, wow, that was rough. 11 for 43 from beyond the arc. That's barely 25%. It's not just about missing shots. It's about rhythm, flow, confidence. What made it even stranger is that we spent the entire offseason hearing that this team was going to run. Fast breaks, high tempo, pace and space basketball. Yet somehow, through 2 games, Boston ranks near the bottom of the league in pace. around 24th or 25th. So where's the running? Where's that track meet offense everyone talked about? The Celtics have the personnel to do it. When you take Jason Tatum out of the picture for a night, you think the team would push the tempo even more, but instead they slowed down. It's a weird contradiction. Everyone promised speed, but what we got was half-court basketball and forced threes. Now, let's talk about the Knicks for a second. Their projected starting five tonight looks tough. OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, Ariel Hookport, and Jalen Brunson. That's a lot of length, a lot of defensive versatility, and a ton of shooting. Off the bench, they've got guys like Yabusel, Jordan Clarkson, Landry Shamet, Miles McBride, and Tyler Kolek. The big question mark is Karl Anthony Towns. He's dealing with a quad strain, grade 2, which usually means he's playing through pain. He gave him 19 points and 11 rebounds in 31 minutes in their opener, but you can tell he's not 100%. Still, even an 80% Towns is dangerous. The Celtics are going to have their hands full defending him, especially if Kata's still adjusting to the NBA pace. Towns can stretch the floor like few big men in the league, so Kata's rotations will have to be on point. If he bites on fakes or gets caught too deep in the paint, Towns will make him pay. And that's why this game could be such a test for Boston. Against Philadelphia, they kind of got bailed out by Joel Embiid's limited mobility. Embiid didn't have his usual lift, and even then, it was still a nail-biter. Towns, if healthy, adds a whole different dimension. He'll pull bigs away from the rim, open up driving lanes for Brunson and Bridges, and test the Celtics' defensive discipline. So, the challenge isn't just about individual matchups. It's about communication and rotations. If Boston wants to win tonight, they need to move as one unit on defense, something that hasn't quite clicked yet this season. On offense, they just need to play with more freedom. The Knicks are one of the better defensive teams in the East, but they're also methodical. If Boston can turn this game into a sprint, they've got a real chance. Run the floor, push the tempo, attack before the Knicks set their defense. That's the formula. And they can't afford another cold night from deep. 11 for 43 won't cut it. Even if the shots aren't falling early, they've got to create easier looks, get inside, draw contact, kick it back out. The Celtics have too many shooters to settle for contested threes. Tonight is one of those games that's going to tell us a lot about who this team really is. Are they the group that can execute fast-paced, high-energy basketball like they talked about all offseason, or are they still trying to figure out their identity without some of their key pieces? The Knicks just came off a big win against the Cleveland Cavaliers and would love nothing more than to start the season 2-0, especially against two heavyweights from the East. So, Boston's going to need to bring it from the opening tip. Intensity, energy, and some of that old-school Celtics grit. Because if they don't, New York's going to smell blood early. You can tell this Celtics team is still trying to figure out who they are, and that's not a bad thing this early in the season. There's talent everywhere, but talent doesn't automatically translate into chemistry, and that's what feels like the missing ingredient so far. When you watch them, there are flashes of greatness, stretches where the ball moves beautifully, players cut at the right time, and the defense rotates like a machine. Then, in the blink of an eye, it all falls apart. Possessions get stagnant, players settle for tough jumpers, and the rhythm disappears. That inconsistency is what's been holding them back. Tonight against the Knicks, it's the perfect chance to start ironing those wrinkles out. Joe MAZZULLA has preached pace and ball movement since training camp, but the players have to buy into it completely. Too often, they get caught walking the ball up the floor, setting up half-court actions that make it easy for defenses to predict. The Celtics have guards who can run, Pritchard, White, Brown, and wings who can finish at full speed. When they move with purpose, they look like a completely different team. The Celtics of old, the ones who grind out slow possessions and live or die by the three, can't exist if this group really wants to take the next step. The league is too fast now, too versatile. The only way to dominate is to stay unpredictable. And speaking of unpredictability, the Celtics bench could play a huge role in that. Guys like Xavier Tillman and Chris Boucher might not have lit up the scoreboard last game, but they bring athleticism and hustle that can swing momentum. Those are the kind of players who don't always show up in a box score, but can change the pace of a game. When they come in with energy, the whole dynamic shifts. Boston can't afford another quiet night from the bench. Someone has to step up, whether it's Tillman crashing the boards or Boucher hitting a couple of timely threes. The Knicks' second unit isn't elite defensively, so this could be the chance for Boston's reserves to find their rhythm. One thing that can't happen again is letting go of the rope in the fourth quarter. That's what stung the most in that loss to Philadelphia. Through 3 quarters, they looked composed and ready to finish strong, but then the energy dropped, the rotation slowed, and the Sixers pounced. It's mental as much as physical. Championship teams know how to close games, even when the shots aren't falling. That's the next step for this roster, learning how to stay locked in until the final buzzer. There's also the matter of leadership. Jaylen Brown has shown flashes of being that vocal guy, but it still feels like the team's leadership is by committee. Derek White is more reserved, and Peyton Pritchard leads through energy and hustle, but someone needs to take control when things start to spiral. In past seasons, that's where Marcus Smart came in, barking out instructions, setting the emotional tone. Now someone else has to fill that void. Maybe it's Brown. Maybe it's White. Maybe it's even a guy like Boucher who brings that fire off the bench. But they can't wait for someone else to do it. When things get messy, they need that voice to pull everyone together. As for the Knicks, this is not the same team from a few seasons ago. Brunson has given them a real identity, calm, calculated offense, and a toughness that mirrors their head coach. With OG Anunoby on the wing and Bridges on the perimeter, they've got defenders who can switch and frustrate anyone. And if Karl-Anthony Towns plays, that adds a new layer entirely. He's not just a big man who camps out near the rim. He can stretch the floor and pull centers out of position. That's going to test Boston's defense in ways they haven't been tested yet. Kata, especially, will have to show that he can stay disciplined on the perimeter without giving up easy looks inside. If Towns ends up sitting, though, Boston needs to take advantage. Attack the paint, draw fouls. Make the Knicks play at your pace. But the biggest storyline for Boston right now might just be the offense. The ball movement has been too predictable. Too many possessions end with an isolation or a contested jumper. When the Celtics are at their best, they play with flow. The ball touches 3 or 4 hands before someone even thinks about shooting. You can see flashes of that style, but it hasn't been consistent. They need to rediscover that rhythm, especially if the outside shot isn't falling. Drive, kick, cut, repeat. It sounds simple, but that's the formula that made them dangerous in past years. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Shockwaves are reportedly rippling through the Boston Celtics locker room after what insiders are calling one of the most explosive moments of the season. Sources close to the team claim that head coach Joe MAZZULLA delivered a blunt, no-nonsense message to one of his players, reportedly saying, "You're not wearing this jersey anymore." The incident, which allegedly occurred during a heated practice session, has sparked a storm of speculation across social media and sports talk shows. While the Celtics have maintained their usual veneer of professionalism in public statements, sources suggest tensions behind the scenes have been simmering for weeks. Some insiders hint that disagreements over playing time, effort in practice, or even locker room dynamics could have contributed to the coach's startling declaration. Those close to the team described the atmosphere as tense and unpredictable, with teammates reportedly exchanging nervous glances and whispers in the corridors of TD Garden. Adding fuel to the rumor fire, anonymous sources claim that MAZZULLA's message was not just a passing remark, but a deliberate warning, aimed at sending a strong signal to the roster. "Joke doesn't mince words," one source said. If he feels someone isn't giving their all or disrupting team chemistry, he makes it clear that their spot isn't guaranteed. This isn't the first time he's had fiery moments in practice, but this one? People are talking. Fans and analysts are already speculating about who the target of MAZZULLA's outburst might be, with names circulating in online forums and podcasts. Some suggest it could involve a veteran struggling with consistency, while others hint at a younger player still finding his place in the high-pressure environment of one of the NBA's storied franchises. Regardless of the individual involved, The message appears clear. Under MAZZULLA, complacency and attitude problems won't be tolerated. As the Celtics prepare for a crucial stretch of games, all eyes will be on how this internal drama unfolds. Will the player respond, either with renewed determination or by requesting a trade? Will the team rally together in the wake of the shock, or will tension simmer into something more disruptive? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The Celtics season just became far more intriguing off the court than many expected. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.